So I was on a date with this girl, and she asks me, "What do you think of crystals?" And I was like, "I think they rock." There was not a second date. Wow, tough crowd, huh?
Let's be honest, most jokes don't survive translation. So how do you do stand-up comedy in a country where your audience doesn't share your cultural background? Does foreign humor even stand a chance in China? I wanted answers, so I talked to Andrew, an American comedian who's been performing stand-up here and figuring it out the hard way. He's been on stage, tested jokes on real audiences, and learned exactly what makes people laugh and what completely falls flat. In this video, he breaks down the real rules of stand-up comedy in China and what it takes to make a room laugh when you're the outsider. Where are you from and how did you become a stand-up comedian in China?
Well, I'm from the United States, but don't hold it against me. I came to China. I've always been interested in comedy, always kind of been a comedy nerd. And then, when I came to China, I just knew someone who did it and kind of fell into it from there.
Do you think that Western humor and Chinese humor work very differently? And have you noticed that difference?
Yeah, I think, humor is definitely a cultural thing as much as it is an individual thing. And so I think, while we can't say like, oh, all people from this part of the world laugh at these things and those things, I do think we can notice a lot of those patterns. I think, for example, American humor tends to value a sort of, I guess you could call it a broader sort of comedy, jokes that are really very set up punchline jokey jokes, where if you look at the UK, it tends to be much more sarcastic. And even though I don't interact much with Chinese language comedy because my Chinese language skills are not good enough, what I do tend to see tends to be a lot of physical comedy, a lot of funny movement, which is, I think, something that in the United States is not as popular, even though it is very difficult to do. And so I think that's one thing, that and wordplay I've noticed is very popular. But I think wordplay is kind of popular in every language, just obviously specific to that language.
How would you personally describe Chinese humor, and do you have a Chinese joke that you can share with us?
Yeah, like as I said, I'm not super familiar with Chinese comedy, but what I have seen tends to be a lot of physical comedy, a lot of wordplay, and I think the crosstalk format is really leans into wordplays and misunderstandings, which I think is really fun. As far as jokes, I don't have anything that I can share that is appropriate for public, so. Sorry. All the Chinese jokes I know are really pretty foul language, so.
When you write jokes for local audiences, what kind of topics do you choose?
I think generally I tend to pick similar topics that I would pick really anywhere. I haven't done stand-up really outside of China much at all, so I only know how to write in this context. But I tend to pick things that everyone or most people deal with. So friendships, dating, family. I think relationships are a really good source of material because nobody exists alone. Everyone has to interact with other people and everyone can enjoy some of that.
Have you discovered certain themes that audience here respond to the best?
Yeah, I think honestly family is one that if you tell a good joke about, oh, my mom said this or my dad did this, everyone is like, yeah, we all have the same thing happening, And so I think joking about familial and parental relationships is something that everyone can understand, especially younger people. People in university tend to really respond to family and parental relationship comedy.
Some comedians heavily rely on body language comedy, like Jim Carrey, for example. Do you use the same trick in your comedy?
I wish I could do that. I'm not nearly as physical as someone like Jim Carrey or like a Robin Williams could be. And it's not something that I'm capable of doing. I will occasionally, as needed, use sort of acting tricks that I picked up when I was in university taking classes and stuff. Things like, adjusting your feet or the way you hold your spine, kind of bring your shoulders in. All of those they're little things that you can do to make people think a certain thing. But in reality, I don't have the physicality to really do strong physical comedy.
Besides body language, what other techniques can help a comedian to be funny on stage?
In order to be funny, I think a lot of people will say, oh, it's just inside you. But one of the things I find really useful was having taken acting classes when I was in college. So a lot of the skills you use in acting, you use on stage just in general. So controlling your voice, understanding timing and blocking, which is your positioning on a stage, posture, the way you hold your body, the way you move your body in certain circumstances. All of these are things that most people don't think about, but when you're on stage, you have to think about these things. And if you want people to follow you to a joke, if you want them to follow you to what's funny, you have to take them with you. And so that means holding your body the right way, positioning yourself in not just in the right spot on stage, but physically in the right posture to show what you're supposed to be feeling and how they're supposed to be feeling. And just learning how to speak clearly and communicate on stage.
Don't you think that Chinese people don't really understand foreign humor?
So I'm going to say no. I think the Chinese people, or the people that come to English comedy, have probably watched a lot of American and British television. And so by the time that they're coming to a comedy show, they are very familiar with the way that the structure works. And so occasionally you get people who just don't get it. But the people who come, enjoy it, and keep coming back, they know what they're getting, and they are seeking this thing. I also think that one of the nice things about what we have here is the comedians are from all over the world. It's not just Americans, it's not just locals, it's people from different parts of Europe, people from different parts of Africa, Northern Africa, and South Africa, and different other sections of different African countries get represented all the time. We get people from all over different parts of Asia. And so when we have this many different people coming from different places, there's always a sort of sensibility. There's at least one person on stage that you can kind of connect to, that's going to have a similar sensibility to what you and your friends think and want.
What advice would you give to Chinese performers who would like to try stand-up comedy in English?
I think the major piece of advice is just do it. There's not really a downside. The worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to embarrass yourself. You get up there, you make a joke, nobody laughs. It hurts, and then you try again. And hopefully you do better the next time. And then hopefully better the next time. So as long as you know, or your language skills are good enough to know what you are saying, just give it a shot. Find someone else who likes to do it and do it together.
According to Andrew, and I think he's right, humor can take different shapes and it can travel from one culture to another. Not always, but it can, if people are open to it. Thanks to Andrew, and thank you for watching. If you found this interesting, give this video a like. It really helps the channel grow. And subscribe if you want more thoughts on life in China seen through a foreign perspective.